I'm glad you're here. Stay with my story until the very end. And comment the city you're watching from, because what I'm about to tell you didn't just change my life. It destroyed it, and then rebuilt me into something my own son never saw coming. My own son sent me to prison for a crime I didn't commit. He thought 2 years behind bars would break me, that I'd come out with no money, no influence, no fight left. He was wrong. My name is Charlotte Harper, and this is my story. Day 729. I dragged my thumbnail slowly across the concrete wall of my cell at Dallas County Jail, carving another thin vertical line into the mess of marks. I'd been counting for nearly 2 years. The sound, sharp, dry, scraping, echoed through the tiny 8-by-10-foot box that had been my world since the day my own son put me here. Tomorrow would be day 730, exactly 2 years. The cell smelled like every jail cell does. Industrial, cleaner, desperately trying to hide sweat, fear, desperation, and broken dreams. The air was thick, heavy, even at night. Texas heat doesn't care whether you're free or locked up. It presses down on everything, making walls feel closer, tighter, like they're slowly leaning in to crush you. But I sat upright on my thin mattress, spine straight, chin high. The orange jumpsuit hung loose on my body now. I'd lost 23 pounds since they locked me up. But even stripped of tailored suits and boardrooms, I carried myself the same way I had for 30 years, like a CEO. Some things don't disappear, no matter how much they try to take from you. From the opposite bunk, my cellmate Betty Wilson watched me quietly. Betty was in her early 60s doing time for fraud. White-collar crime, like mine was supposed to be. Except I didn't commit mine. You're doing it again, Betty said, her voice rough from years of smoking before prison. Doing what? I asked. That thing, she said, sitting up, gray hair sticking out in every direction. Sitting like you're in a boardroom instead of a cell. Most people on their last night before release are bouncing off the walls. You look like you're planning a corporate takeover. I allowed myself a small smile. Maybe I am. Betty knew my story. Everyone inside did. The headlines had made sure of that. Wealthy CEO's rage kills unborn grandchild. Dynasty destroyed by grandmother's violence. All lies. Every single word. But truth doesn't matter much when your own son testifies against you. I stood and walked to the small scratched mirror above the sink. The woman staring back wasn't the same one who'd walked into this place 2 years ago. My dark hair, once professionally, styled every week at the best salon in Dallas, was now streaked with gray. I'd let it grow out, refusing the cheap prison dye. The lines around my eyes were deeper, my cheekbones sharper from weight loss. But my eyes were different. Harder, sharper. They held something new. You know what I learned in here, Betty? I said quietly, still looking at my reflection. What's that? When you lose everything, your freedom, your reputation, your family, you find out what you're really made of. I met my own gaze, and I found out I'm made of steel. Betty chuckled softly. I believe it. I've seen women break in weeks. You got stronger. I turned away from the mirror. Tomorrow I would walk out of Dallas County Jail, and I wouldn't be the broken woman Andrew expected. I'd be something far more dangerous. A mother with nothing left to lose. 6 months into my sentence, I'd stopped believing the appeals would work. My public defender was exhausted, underpaid, barely skimming my case before pushing me to take a plea deal. I refused. I would not confess to something I didn't do. That decision cost me everything. I closed my eyes and let myself fall back into the memory of the trial. Sometimes you have to relive the nightmare to fuel the fire that will burn it all down. The courtroom had been packed. Reporters, spectators, people from Sterling, Industries, the company I'd built from nothing over 30 years. I'd started with a small inheritance from my late husband, Michael, and turned it into a $70 million empire. Now I sat at the defense table in a borrowed suit, hands folded, watching my son take the stand. Andrew Harper, my firstborn, 35 years old. He wore a Navy suit that probably cost $4,000, paid for with money from my company. His hair was perfect, his expression carefully crafted sorrow. The prosecutor, Jennifer Matthews, spoke gently. Mr. Harper, can you tell the court what happened on September 25th? Andrew's voice trembled. He was good. I'll give him that. I was in my office when my mother arrived, he said. She was angry about financial discrepancies I'd found in the accounts. Lies. He was the one stealing. I'd found $1.5 million missing. She confronted my wife, Delilah. They argued. My mother was furious, shouting. His voice broke at exactly the right moment. Then she pushed Delilah down the stairs. My wife was 7 months pregnant. I wanted to scream, to stand up, to expose him. But my lawyer warned me. Juries don't like angry women, especially wealthy ones. The prosecutor handed Andrew a tissue. What happened to the baby? We lost him, Andrew said, wiping his eyes. The doctors tried, but the trauma was too much. The jury looked at me with disgust. Then came Delilah, wheeled in like a prop. A cream dress, no makeup. A teddy bear clutched in her lap. That teddy bear destroyed me more than her testimony ever could. My evidence, medical records, proving she'd miscarried 2 days before the fall, was thrown out on a technicality. The verdict took 6 hours. Guilty, involuntary manslaughter. 2 years. I watched Andrew embrace Delilah as the sentence was read. And for just 1 second, I saw it. Not grief. Not relief. Calculation. Cold. Perfect calculation. That's when I knew. They planned all of it. And that's when I decided they would pay. 3 months later, Andrew visited me in prison. Plexiglass. Phones. Recorded conversations. He looked healthy. Expensive suit. New Rolex. He wasn't there for me. He wanted $2 million from the company. When I refused, he froze my accounts and filed emergency. Power of attorney, declaring me mentally incompetent. Sign the papers, he said, or rot in here. He walked away thinking he'd won. He didn't realize he'd just made a fatal mistake. Because he forgot something. 2 weeks later, my daughter Grace walked into the visitation room. Cold, distant, professional. She demanded I sign the same papers. My heart shattered, until her finger traced something on the table where the guards couldn't see. TRUSTME. And in that moment, everything changed. My breath caught. I looked up at Grace's face. Still cold, still distant. But for just a fraction of a second, her eyes betrayed her. They softened, pleaded. She was acting. My knees nearly gave out from relief. I wanted to cry, to reach across the plexiglass and grab her hands. Instead, I forced my face to remain blank and said loudly, clearly for every microphone in that room to hear, I'm not signing anything. Grace's expression hardened instantly. The mask snapped back into place. Fine, she said flatly. I tried to help you. I told Andrew you'd be difficult. She stood. Goodbye, Mother. Don't expect to see me next month. Goodbye. She hung up the phone and walked away, her heels clicking sharply against the linoleum floor. Each step deliberate, final. But I'd seen the truth. Grace was on my side. She was playing Andrew's game from the inside, gathering evidence, letting him think he'd won. My brilliant daughter. That night, I returned to my cell with the first real hope I'd felt in months. Betty looked up from her book. Your daughter visited? Yes. She give you a hard time like your son did? I smiled faintly. Something like that. Betty studied me. You're smiling. That's new. I just realized something, I said quietly. I'm not alone in this fight. She raised an eyebrow. Oh, I have an ally on the outside. Someone Andrew trusts. Someone he'll never suspect. I lay back on my bunk, staring at the cracked ceiling. Tomorrow I would start planning. To understand how everything went wrong, I had to go back, long before prison, before betrayal. 2.5 years earlier, I was standing at the head of the Sterling Industries boardroom, 40 floors above downtown Dallas. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city I loved. My city. My company. 8 board members sat around the table. Andrew sat at my right hand, where he'd been for 3 years as chief operating officer. I'd been grooming him to take over one day, maybe in 5 years when I slowed down. The third quarter numbers are concerning, I said, pulling a spreadsheet onto the main screen. We're showing a $1.5 million discrepancy in operational expenses. Andrew shifted in his chair. Mother, I can explain. Can you? I asked calmly, because I've been reviewing the accounts myself. I clicked again. There are transfers to shell companies I've never approved. Lux Consulting LLC, ever heard of it? The room went silent. That's a legitimate vendor, Andrew said quickly. No, it isn't. I called them. The address is a P.O. box. The phone goes straight to voicemail. I looked directly at him. And when I traced the registration, do you know whose name I found? Andrew's face drained of color. Delilah's... I stood. Your wife owns Lux Consulting. You've been funneling company money into a shell corporation she controls. Richard Garrett, one of our founding board members, cleared his throat. Charlotte, are you certain? I have documentation. 1.5 million over 18 months. Small amounts, carefully hidden, but it's all here. I turned back to Andrew. You have 48 hours to return the money. All of it, or I call the FBI. He shot to his feet. You'd destroy your own son over money? I'd save my company from theft, I said evenly. There's a difference. You've never thought I was good enough, he snapped. Dad's been dead 8 years and you still compare me to him. Michael wouldn't have made this mistake, I said before I could stop myself. The words landed like a slap. So everything is about him, Andrew shouted. I've spent my whole life trying to be him, and failing, and now you want to send me to prison. Because I'm not perfect? I want you to return the money you stole. It wasn't stealing, he sneered. It was compensation. For being undervalued. For you being afraid I'd take over and ruin your precious company. Andrew, I don't need 48 hours, he said bitterly. I quit, effective immediately. He stormed out. That night I called Grace. She listened quietly as I told her everything. Be careful, Mom, she said finally. I don't trust Delilah. I should have listened. September 25th. I arrived at Sterling. Industries at 2:00 p.m. I'd spent the night digging deeper. The total missing was now close to 3 million. Andrew hadn't returned anything. I went to his office. He was laughing on the phone, feet on his desk, wearing jeans like he hadn't just robbed his own company. I want the money back, I said. All 3 million. Then Delilah burst in. 7 months pregnant. Designer clothes, fury in her eyes, and then the look she gave Andrew, a signal. She stepped backward. The fall was horrific. And at the bottom of the stairs, before Andrew reached her, she looked up at me and smiled. The hospital, the doctor, the lie. You killed my son! Andrew screamed. I was arrested in the hallway. The first month in jail nearly broke me. But when another inmate tried to humiliate me, I didn't fold. I built a $70 million company, I told her calmly. Do you really think a knocked-over tray will break me? After that, they left me alone, and in the prison library, with outdated books and ancient computers, I began rebuilding myself. I studied corporate law, forensic accounting, and with the help of a woman named Samantha Price, I learned how to follow money. For 18 months, she taught me everything. Not to fight back yet. To prepare, because when I got out, I would be ready. Samantha taught me how to spot fake invoices, the way other people learn to spot lies in a conversation, a decimal that shouldn't be there, a vendor name that looks real but isn't, a pattern that repeats just enough to hide in plain sight. She taught me how to build a trail so clean, so detailed, that even a corrupt judge couldn't wave it away without exposing himself. By the time my second year hit, I wasn't just a wrongfully convicted grandmother in an orange jumpsuit. I was an expert in corporate fraud, all thanks to a prison education. And the best part? Grace was doing her own education on the outside. She visited once a month, always the third Thursday, like clockwork. Every visit followed the same routine. She'd sit across from me with that same blank, professional face and speak coldly into the phone so the guards would hear it. You need to cooperate, Mom. Andrew is doing his best with the company. This is for your own good. And every single visit, she left me a message. Sometimes her finger traced words on the table where the cameras couldn't see. Sometimes it was hidden in the margins of paperwork. Once it was encoded in the first letter of each sentence she spoke. Month 3, evidence building. Month 6, found lawyer. Month 9, Marcus Reed ready. Month 12, 6 more months. Month 15, Delilah medical records located. Each message was oxygen, hope. Grace was out there fighting for me in ways Andrew could never. Suspect, right under his nose. Month 18. She brought a thick file stamped. Sterling Industries Financial Review. Andrew wants you to sign off on these procedures, she said flatly, loud enough for the microphone. I pretended to read while she sat there like a stranger. Then my eyes caught it. Page 43. A tiny phone number printed. So small it looked like a printing error, hidden in the margin, half swallowed by the formatting. Grace didn't blink, didn't react, just sat still and cold like she hated me. But I knew. I memorized the number in seconds. Back in my cell that night, I stared at the ceiling, repeating it over and over, until it burned into my mind like my day count marks on the wall. Then I asked Betty for a favor. Betty had connections, ways to move messages that didn't go through official channels. I didn't ask questions. In prison, you learn quickly that survival sometimes depends on not knowing too much. 3 days later, Betty slipped me a small folded piece of paper like it was nothing. "Your girl's smart," she whispered. "Real smart." I unfolded it carefully. Grace's words were tight, quick, like she wrote them in one breath. Marcus Reed retained. 6 months until your release. Evidence collected, shell companies. Total stolen, 4.2 meh. Judge Morrison bribe, 75K. Security tech payoff, 50K. Medical records. Delilah miscarried Sep 23. Fall was Sep 25. Recordings. Andrew admits embezzlement. Everything is ready. Stay strong, Mom. We're going to destroy him. Gee. My hands shook as I read it. I read it again. And again. Then I did what Betty instructed. I ate the paper. Let it dissolve on my tongue like it was communion. 4.2 million. He'd stolen even more than I thought. And the bribes. That's how the judge threw out my evidence. That's how my medical records disappeared. That's how Andrew turned a courtroom into a stage and made me the villain. And Delilah's records. Proof her baby had already died. Proof the trial was built on a lie. Grace had everything. All I had to do was survive. 6 more months, I could do that standing on my head. 22 months into my sentence, Andrew visited again. This time, he didn't look like a winner. He was thinner. Dark circles bruised his eyes. His expensive suit was rumpled like he'd slept in it. Stress had finally started chewing on him the way prison had chewed on me. "Mom," he said into the phone. I picked up mine and said nothing. "I need you to sign something. It's important." "No. You don't even know what it is." "I don't care." His jaw tightened. The mask slipped. "The company is in trouble," he snapped. "We need access to the emergency trust fund. $5 million. It requires your biometric, authorization, fingerprint, and facial recognition at the bank." "No. Mom, please." His voice dropped, almost begging. "If we don't get that money, Sterling Industries could go bankrupt. 30 years of your work, Dad's work, gone." I leaned forward until my breath fogged the plexiglass. "Tell me something, Andrew," I said calmly. "Where did the more 4.2 million fund you already stole go?" His face went blank. What are you talking about?" "Yes, you do." My voice stayed measured, cold. "I've had nearly 2 years to study forensic accounting. I know every shell company, every fake invoice, every fraudulent transfer." I watched him swallow. "So where did it go?" I continued softly. "Business investments, Delilah's shopping habit, your new cars, the house you bought in the Hamptons." Andrew's eyes widened. "How do you—" He stopped himself. For the first time in 2 years, he looked afraid of me. "I'm not as powerless as you think," I said. Andrew slammed his palm against the plexiglass, rattling it. "Sign the damn papers, or I'll make sure you never see your grandchildren." The words hit, sharp, personal, designed to stab. I felt the sting, then buried it. "Goodbye, Andrew." I hung up. I walked away while he shouted behind the glass, his voice muffled, useless. That's the thing about power. Once you stop needing someone's approval, their threats don't work anymore. Day 729, my last night in prison. Betty and I sat on our bunks in the dark, neither of us able to sleep. "What's the first thing you're gonna do when you get out?" she asked. "Take a shower that lasts more than 5 minutes." Betty laughed quietly. "Fair, after that." I stared at the ceiling. "Start the war." You really think your daughter has everything? Betty asked. I know she does, I said. Grace has been preparing for 2 years. She's brilliant, patient, and ruthless when she needs to be. Betty went quiet. What about your son? I exhaled slowly. Andrew made his choice. He chose money over family, greed over love. I turned my head toward her in the dark. And now he's going to learn what happens when you underestimate a mother. And the daughter she raised. Betty's voice softened. You still love him. Even after all this. Part of me always will, I admitted. He's my son. But love doesn't mean I let him destroy everything I built. Love doesn't mean I don't hold him accountable. Betty nodded like she understood. Then you're gonna be okay out there. I will be. And when you rebuild, she added, don't forget about us in here. I thought about the women I'd met. Harris, hot-headed but trying to change. Samantha, guilty, brilliant, remorseful. Betty, sharp, flawed, but loyal. I won't forget, I promised. When I get Sterling back, I'm building a program. Job training, placement, second chances for women coming out of incarceration. Betty's voice was almost a whisper. You're a good person, Charlotte Harper. I swallowed. I'm a person who learned not to judge people only by their worst moment, but by what they do after. We sat in silence. Tomorrow I'd walk out, and the real fight would begin. September 15th, day 7:30. I woke before sunrise. The sky outside our small window was turning from black to deep purple. I pressed my palm to the cool glass. Morning, Betty mumbled. Morning. How you feeling? Like I'm about to walk into a battle. You nervous? I considered it. No, nervous implies uncertainty. I know exactly what's coming. I turned from the window. Andrew will be at the gates with Delilah, cameras, flowers, a fake reunion for the public. They'll expect me to be broken, grateful, desperate. I smiled once, small and deadly. And instead, they're going to meet a woman they don't recognize anymore. Betty sat up. Who is she? I held her gaze. A warrior. Who's done playing nice. At 9 a.m., Officer Martinez appeared at my cell. Harper, you're up. Discharge processing. This was it. I walked the corridors I'd walked 1,000 times. Past Harris playing cards. She nodded once. Past the library, Samantha mouthed. Good luck. Then they handed me my belongings. A worn blouse, loose black pants, a dead phone, a wallet with 43, and then my wedding ring. Michael's ring. I slipped it on. It was loose now. Even my hands had changed. Michael, I whispered, I'm about to go to war with our son. I hope you understand. For a second, it felt absurdly warm, like he was answering, do what you have to do. Sign here, Martinez said. I signed. You're free to go. 10:47 a.m. I walked through the main gates of Dallas County Jail. The September sun hit me like a punch. Bright, overwhelming. Freedom felt almost too sharp after 2 years under fluorescent lights. I closed my eyes and let the heat soak into my skin. Sunlight without bars. Air without despair. Then I heard it. Mrs. Harper. I opened my eyes. The parking lot was packed. Reporters, cameras, microphones, shouting questions. And there, dead center, staged perfectly for maximum coverage, Andrew and Delilah. Andrew in a navy suit. Hair perfect. Face arranged into remorse. Delilah in cream, holding white roses, glowing like an angel. Healthy, well-fed, smiling. While I was dying in prison, they were living in my house, spending my money, running my company into the ground. Rage surged through me so hard I almost stopped breathing. Mom, Andrew called, loud enough for every microphone to catch. Welcome back. We're here for you. We're family. He stepped toward me, Delilah holding the roses out like this was a movie ending. I did the one thing he never expected. I walked past him, not around him, not avoiding him, past him like he was nothing, like he was furniture. Mom! His voice cracked, panic creeping in. His hand shot out and grabbed my arm. Wait, don't make a scene. Get in the car. We can talk. Work everything out. I looked down at his fingers on my skin. The cameras were rolling. Let go of me, I said quietly. Controlled, deadly calm. Or I'll scream that you're assaulting me in front of all these witnesses. His hand fell away like I'd burned him. I kept walking. Behind me, Delilah's voice rose, her angel mask cracking. She's insane. Prison destroyed her mind. She needs help. Then, a deep, powerful engine cut her off. Every head turned. A black Bentley Continental GT glided into the lot like a predator, chrome flashing in the sun, windows dark as secrets. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out who looked like he belonged on the cover of a legal magazine. Charcoal three-piece suit, athletic build, rimless glasses catching light. Marcus Reed. The attorney Andrew tried to hire, and couldn't. Marcus walked straight to me, ignoring reporters, ignoring Andrew's stunned face, ignoring Delilah's dropped jaw. "Mrs. Harper," he said, warm but firm. "Everything is ready." He opened the rear door with a slight bow. I paused, turned back once. Andrew and Delilah stood frozen, roses drooping, their staged reunion collapsing. I didn't smile. I just let them see it. The woman who went into prison wasn't the woman walking out. Then I slid into the Bentley. The door shut with a heavy, final thunk, like a vault ceiling. Outside, chaos erupted, and through the tinted window, I watched Andrew's face cycle through confusion, shock, and then pure rage. Delilah grabbed his arm, her composure shattering. Delilah's voice cut through the chaos behind the Bentley like a cracked violin. "You said he refused us," she hissed at Andrew. "You said your mother had nothing left. No money, no connections, no way to fight back." Andrew's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Through the tinted window, I watched him stand there, frozen, exposed, while reporters swarmed him like sharks sensing blood. Cameras flashed, microphones shoved toward his face. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't the one that trapped behind glass. He was. Marcus slid into the driver's seat. The engine purred to life, smooth, controlled, dangerous. "Where to, ma'am?" he asked, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. I leaned back against the leather, closed my eyes, and took my first real breath in 2 years. Outside, Andrew was shouting something. Delilah was flailing. Reporters were calling his name, but the sound faded behind the Bentley sealed. Doors like a world I no longer belonged to. I smiled, cold as a Texas winter night. "The Ritz-Carlton," I said. "I need to wash their touch off me." Marcus nodded once. "Then we begin." The Ritz-Carlton penthouse occupied the entire 42nd floor of the downtown tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the suite, revealing Dallas like a kingdom laid out beneath me. My city, the one I'd helped build with decades of work and investment. Marcus handed me a key card. "The suite is yours as long as you need," he said. "Paid in full." I blinked. "By who?" "Grace," he replied simply. "Your daughter's instructions." My throat tightened. Of course she thought of everything. I walked through the penthouse like I'd stepped into someone else's life. A living room filled with leather furniture that probably cost more than most people's cars. A kitchen of gleaming marble and appliances I couldn't even name. A bedroom with a king-sized bed that looked like heaven after 2 years on a prison slab. But it was the bathroom that stopped me. Marble everywhere, gold fixtures, a shower with 6 heads, a soaking tub big enough for 3 people. I turned the shower on and cranked the heat until steam began to bloom against the glass like fog. Then I stripped off the clothes I'd worn into prison 2 years ago, my own blouse and pants, now hanging off me like they belonged to a stranger, and stepped under the spray. The water hit me like baptism, like redemption, like the first breath after drowning. I scrubbed with expensive cedar and bergamot, soap, nothing like the harsh prison detergent that burned your skin but never made you feel clean. I scrubbed until my skin turned red, washed my hair 3 times, let the hot water pound my shoulders until the whole room filled with steam. And then finally the tears came. Not weakness, not pity, rage, grief. 2 years of swallowing everything because emotion in prison isn't vulnerability. It's a target. I braced my hands against the marble wall and let myself break apart. I cried for the woman who trusted her son, for the mother who raised him, for the grandmother who would never meet the grandchildren he dangled like a weapon. I cried for 30 years of building something beautiful, only to watch my own child try to burn it down. The water carried my tears away as fast as they fell. When I finally stepped out, wrapped in a thick hotel robe, I felt different. Cleaner, lighter, ready. I walked into the living room. Marcus stood by the window finishing a quiet phone call. When he saw me, he ended it instantly. "Feel better?" he asked. "Like I'm human again." "Good," he said. "Because we have company." The penthouse door opened. A woman walked in. Past 60. Short silver hair cut in a sharp, professional style. Charcoal pantsuit. Plain watch. No designer labels. She didn't need them. Her eyes were what hit me. Sharp. Intelligent. Heavy with experience. And pain. "Charlotte Harper," she said, extending her hand. "Beatrice Walsh. I've been looking forward to meeting you." Her grip was firm, her palm calloused. This was a woman who earned every inch of respect she carried. "Marcus said you were the best defense attorney in Texas," I said. Beatrice gave a slight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I was, before they made me a scapegoat for corporate corruption." Marcus didn't flinch. He just watched me carefully, like he wanted me to hear every word. 5 years in federal prison," Beatrice continued, sitting, "for refusing to betray my client." My breath caught. "You were convicted, too. Wrongfully is a strong word," she said calmly. "I broke rules, bent laws. I protected someone I believed in, but the sentence wasn't about justice." Her gaze sharpened. It was a message. "Don't cross powerful men." Marcus gestured toward the coffee table. It was covered in documents, laptops, file folders, evidence stacked like ammunition. "We need to move fast," he said. "Strike while Andrew's off balance." I tightened the robe belt like armor and sat. "Show me everything." Marcus slid the first paper in front of me. "Power of attorney revocation," he said. "Andrew had you declared mentally incompetent to seize control of Sterling Industries. This revokes it and reactivates your 70% shareholder status." I scanned the legal language I understood. Now, because prison forced me to learn it, I signed. My hand shook, but not from doubt. Then Marcus pulled another document. "Emergency forensic audit. The moment we file this, every Sterling Industries account freezes until the audit is complete." I looked up. "How long?" "Minimum 30 days, Marcus said. "Longer if we find irregularities." I let out a humorless breath. "You'll find them." Beatrice leaned forward, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "Your daughter sent this. No return address. Just one letter in the corner." My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten note. Grace's handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. 2 years of work. Everything you need. Trust Marcus and Beatrice. They're good people. I love you, Mom. Let's destroy him. Ugh. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. Marcus plugged the flash drive into his laptop. The screen filled with folders. Spreadsheets, bank records, emails, photos, audio files. Grace has been documenting everything since the day you were convicted, Marcus said quietly. Every transfer Andrew made. Every shell company. Every fake invoice. Every penny. My heart hammered as I scrolled. Lux Consulting, LLC. Registration. Owned by Delilah. Incorporated. Created 3 days after my conviction. Shell transfers 2022-2024. 4.2 million. Funneled through 5 fake companies. Judge Morrison payment record. $75,000. Transferred 2 weeks before trial. Security tech payoff. $50,000. To James Mitchell. Footage lost. Then I saw it. A file that turned my blood to ice. Delilah medical records. Mercy General. PDF. My hands shook as I opened it. Mercy General Hospital, Dallas. Patient. Delilah Morrison Harper. Date. September 23rd, 2024. 11:45. PIMA. Diagnosis. Spontaneous incomplete abortion. Secondary to toxicology positive for Amdapur. Notes. Patient admitted using illegal fat-burning pills purchased online. Fetus non-viable. Emergency D&C performed. September 23rd. Delilah's fall was September 25th. 2 days later, that baby was already gone. The room swam. I couldn't breathe. She lied, I whispered. Beatrice's voice came from far away. Yes. My mouth went dry. The baby was already dead. She killed it herself with illegal diet pills. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. And Andrew knew. Grace has recordings. He admits it. I felt something inside me snap. Not crack. Snap! My son, my firstborn, had knowingly sent me to prison. For a crime that never happened. For a baby that was already dead. For money. The rage that rose in me was so pure it felt clean. Destroy him, I said. The words came out cold. Final. I want Andrew to lose everything. Every account frozen. Every asset seized. I want him to feel what it's like to have nothing. Marcus nodded. The audit goes into effect the moment I file. Within 2 hours, every Sterling account locks. Corporate and personal. Credit cards decline. Salary suspended. He tapped another page. And the mansion. Premarital asset. It's in your name. We can file eviction today. I looked at Beatrice. Is this legal? Every bit of it, she said without hesitation. You're the rightful owner. You're protecting your assets from theft. Andrew's been living on your money in your home while bleeding your company dry. We're not hurting him, Marcus added. We're taking back what's yours. I stood and walked to the window. Dallas stretched out below. Bright, busy, unaware that a storm was about to break. Somewhere out there, Andrew probably still believed I'd come out weak. Grateful. Ready to forgive. He had no idea what was coming. I turned back. Do it, I said. All of it. File everything within the hour. Marcus nodded once. There's one more thing, he said, opening another folder. Marcus opened another folder on his laptop. Then he turned the screen toward me. A photograph filled the display. Andrew and Delilah, seated at On Sterling Steakhouse, the most expensive restaurant in Dallas. Champagne glasses raised, smiling like life was easy, like they hadn't destroyed mine. The timestamp read, yesterday. While you were spending your last night in a prison cell, Marcus said quietly. They were celebrating at a 5-star restaurant. He flipped the photo over. Written on the back, in Grace's neat handwriting, let them enjoy their last supper. My jaw tightened. I didn't say a word, because I didn't have to. The war was already moving. At 4:47 p.m., Marcus's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and smiled. It's starting. He put it on speaker. Marcus Reed. A nervous voice came through. Mr. Reed, this is Gerald Thompson, CFO of Sterling Industries. I just received notification from the SEC that all our accounts have been frozen, pending an emergency audit. Do you know anything about this? Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. I filed the paperwork this afternoon on behalf of Charlotte Harper, he said calmly. The majority shareholder and rightful chairman of Sterling Industries. Silence. Then Gerald stammered, Charlotte Harper, but she was released this morning. Marcus cut in. And she has exercised her right to investigate financial irregularities that occurred during her incarceration. Does Andrew know? He will shortly. Marcus's tone stayed clinical. All corporate accounts are locked. Executive salaries suspended. Company credit cards canceled. Nothing moves until the audit clears. Gerald's voice dropped to a whisper. My God, how long? Minimum 30 days. Marcus replied. Could be longer. We've identified evidence of substantial embezzlement, wire fraud, and corporate malfeasance. Mr. Harper is the primary suspect. I had no idea. That's what we're here to find out, Mr. Thompson. Marcus said. Whether you knew or not, I suggest you retain legal counsel. Click! Marcus ended the call. A savage satisfaction warmed my chest. How long until Andrew finds out? I asked. Marcus checked his watch like he was timing a bomb. About 3 minutes, he said. He'll try to use his corporate card. 3 miles away, Andrew Harper sat in Sterling Steakhouse with Delilah and Richard and Patricia Morrison, investors he'd been chasing for months. He needed their $15 million to cover the holes in Sterling Industries' finances. Holes he created by stealing from his mother. Patricia sipped her wine carefully. Your mother looked well today. For someone just out of prison. Andrew forced a smile. She's been through a lot. 2 years in that place affected her mentally. But Delilah and I are committed to helping her adjust. Delilah squeezed his arm like the perfect devoted wife. We've hired the best therapists. Charlotte needs support, not judgment. Andrew's phone buzzed. A text from Gerald Thompson. Call me immediately. Emergency. Andrew ignored it. Gerald was always dramatic. The waiter returned with the bill and set it down neatly. $8.50. Worth it, Andrew told himself. $15 million in investment would make everything disappear. He pulled out his corporate black card and handed it over casually. Keep the change. The waiter swiped it at the table. Beep declined. Andrew's stomach dropped. The waiter blinked. Let me try again, sir. Beep declined. Patricia and Richard exchanged a look. Andrew's laugh came out thin and hollow. Must be a glitch. He turned to Delilah. Use yours. Delilah fumbled, pulled out her supplementary card. Same account. The waiter swiped it. Beep declined. Silence slammed down on the table like a lid. Andrew stood so fast his chair scraped loudly. Heads turned across the restaurant. I'll call the bank, he muttered, walking toward the entrance with his phone pressed to his ear. His hands were shaking. Gerald answered on the first ring. Andrew, thank God. Where have you been? All the accounts are frozen. Every single one. Sicky emergency order at 4 p.m. The restaurant blurred. What? Andrew hissed. On whose authority? Your mother's. Andrew's mouth went dry. Charlotte reactivated her majority shareholder status. She filed for an emergency forensic audit. The board sided with her, Andrew. They still see her as the founder. You were just managing while she was away. I'm the CEO. Your appointment was based on power of attorney. Gerald snapped. And she revoked it. Legally, she never stopped being chairman. The board trusts her more than you. Andrew grabbed the wall for support. What about my salary? Frozen. My accounts? Frozen. Everything? Everything, Gerald said. Nothing moves until the audit clears. And the $2 million you tried to withdraw this morning? Cancelled. Flagged as suspicious. Andrew swallowed hard. How long? 30 days minimum. Could be months if they find irregularities. Andrew's mind screamed the truth. They'll find them. There were 4.2 million reasons they'd find them. Andrew, Gerald said, voice tight. There's one more thing. Turn on the TV. Andrew looked around wildly. Behind the bar, a flat screen played CNBC. He turned just as the anchor said. And breaking news. Sterling. Industries founder Charlotte. Harper has announced her return. Andrew's blood turned to ice. On screen. Me, in a sharp gray suit. Hairstyled. Standing at a podium with the Sterling Industries logo behind me like a throne. Not broken. Not humbled. Powerful. Angry. My name is Charlotte Harper. My voice rang across the restaurant speakers. Rightful owner and chairman of Sterling Industries. Effective immediately, management restructuring is underway. The camera zoomed in. While I was wrongfully imprisoned, I continued, massive financial irregularities occurred. Funds were diverted. Projects mismanaged. Trust violated. I looked straight into the camera. Over $4 million that was stolen from the company I built. Legal action will be taken. Criminal charges will be filed. This company will be cleaned from top to bottom. Andrew's chest tightened as if invisible hands were squeezing him. The shot widened, showing Marcus and Beatrice flanking me, my legal team. The restaurant didn't feel warm anymore. It felt like a courtroom. Every eye on Andrew. Patricia glanced at her phone, reading notifications. Richard's jaw tightened. The waiter was still holding the bill. Cut at a unpaid. Delilah rushed up beside Andrew, hissing under her breath. Andrew, people are staring. What's happening? Andrew couldn't speak. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered with shaking fingers. Mr. Harper, a calm male voice said. Professional and lethal. This is Marcus Reed, attorney for Charlotte Harper. I'm calling to inform you that eviction proceedings have been initiated for the Highland Park property. You have 72 hours more to vacate. Andrew's throat tightened. You can't. That's my home. It's your mother's home, Marcus replied. Premarital asset registered solely in her name. You've been living there without legal right. The formal notice has been emailed. I'm her son. That's a family matter. Marcus said smoothly. Legally, you're a trespasser. 72 hours. Click! Andrew stared at the phone like it was a weapon. Then it buzzed again. A text. Enjoy your last supper. Grace. His sister. The realization hit him like a punch. She'd been working with me the whole time. Andrew stumbled back to the table. Patricia and Richard were already standing, gathering their things. We'll be in touch, Richard said stiffly. Translation, don't call us. They walked away without another glance. Delilah grabbed Andrew's arm. What did they say? Andrew, talk to me. Andrew's voice came out hollow. We're done. Delilah's face collapsed. What do you mean? We're completely done. The waiter cleared his throat politely. Sir, the bill. Andrew looked down at the check, looked at his useless cards. He had $1 in his wallet. That was it. I'll get cash from an ATM, Andrew stammered. The waiter shook his head. We don't accept cash for bills over $500, sir. Credit card only. Andrew pulled out his personal credit card. His own account, not corporate. The waiter swiped it. Beep! Declined. Andrew's stomach fell through the floor. There was no mistake. His personal accounts were tied to Sterling's. If the company was frozen, so was he. Everything was frozen. Andrew had nothing. The maitre d' appeared at his side. Posture polite, but eyes sharp. Sir, is there a problem? Around them, other diners had stopped pretending not to stare. Some already had their phones out, recording, whispering. By morning, it would be everywhere. CEO can't pay his bill. I'll call my accountant, Andrew said, desperation leaking through his voice. I'll have the money wired. The maitre d' didn't blink. Sir, we require payment now. Otherwise, I'll have to contact the police. Delilah's face drained of color. Andrew. He wanted to scream, to flip the table, to burn the restaurant down just to stop the humiliation. Instead, he called the only person left who might help. Grace answered on the third ring. What do you want, Andrew? Gracie, please, he whispered. Something's wrong with the accounts. I need your help. There was no hesitation in her voice. Nothing's wrong. Mom froze them. All of them. The restaurant fell away. Andrew gripped the phone like a lifeline. You knew about this? I arranged it. His chest tightened. You betrayed me. No, Grace said coldly. You betrayed Mom. You sent her to prison for a crime she didn't commit. You stole millions. You destroyed our family. I'm your brother. You were my brother, she replied. That person died the day you put Mom in a cage. Her voice hardened further. Enjoy your evening, Andrew. It's the last nice one you'll have for a very long time. Click! Andrew stood there holding a dead phone, unable to pay an $850 bill horror, watching his life collapse in real time. The maitre d' was already calling the police. Delilah was crying now, mascara streaking down her face. Other diners kept recording. 3 days later, Andrew stood outside the iron gates of the Highland Park mansion, with 3 suitcases and 2 duffel bags. Everything he and Delilah could prove they bought with their own money, which wasn't much. Most of their designer clothes, jewelry, electronics, purchased with Sterling. Industries funds had been seized by Charlotte's legal team. The moving truck was gone. The gates were locked. New security cameras gleamed from every corner. Andrew pressed the intercom. This is Andrew Harper. I need to get my things. A security guard's voice came through, flat and final. This property belongs to Charlotte Harper. You've been evicted. You are trespassing. Leave immediately or police will be called. Neighbors watched from their windows. A few held up phones. By nightfall, it would be all over Dallas social media. Gakyo evicted from his own home. Except it had never been his home. It had always been his mother's. A black BMW pulled up. Grace stepped out. Navy pantsuit crisp. Sunglasses hiding her eyes. For one desperate second, Andrew felt hope. Grace, thank God, he said. Tell them to let me in. I just need a few things. Grace walked past him to the intercom. This is Grace Harper, she said calmly. I'm here to inspect the property. The gate opened immediately. Andrew stepped forward. A security guard blocked him. Sir, you need to leave. Andrew grabbed Grace's arm. Please, he begged. Talk to Mom. This is insane. I'm her son. Grace turned slowly, removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were empty. You were her son, she said quietly. That ended when you put her in prison, when you stole from her company, when you chose Delilah and money over your own mother. I made mistakes. You made choices, Grace corrected. And choices have consequences. She pulled her arm free. I warned you once that Mom was stronger than you thought. She walked through the gates. They closed behind her with electronic finality. Andrew stood on the wrong side of the bars. Delilah collapsed against their luggage, sobbing. What are we going to do? Andrew checked his bank balance. 80. That was it. Room 204, Sunset Motel. The room smelled like mildew and defeat. The air conditioner rattled, blowing lukewarm air that barely touched the Texas heat. The bedspread was stained, the carpet threadbare. A cockroach scurried across the wall. $45 a night. 4 nights ago, Andrew lived in a 6,000-square-foot mansion. Now he sat on a sagging mattress, counting cash for the 3rd time. 180. 4 nights. That's all they had. Delilah emerged from the bathroom, hair limp, makeup gone. I can't live like this, she snapped. There are cockroaches. Then leave. Andrew shot back. With what money? My accounts are frozen too, she hissed. Because you were stupid. You put everything in your name. Don't you dare blame me. You wanted your mother's company, Delilah screamed. You said if we could just get rid of her, everything would be ours. I wanted her respect, Andrew shouted back. I wanted her to see I could run Sterling like Dad did. You testified in court, Delilah said coldly. You said she pushed me. You sent your own mother to prison and didn't lose a minute of sleep because you were too busy spending her money. Andrew grabbed her arm. You killed that baby, he said. Not Mom. You, with your illegal diet pills. Delilah yanked free. I didn't know DNP was dangerous. You threw yourself down those stairs, Andrew said, voice shaking. I saw you look at me first. I knew what you were doing, and I didn't stop you. Silence filled the room. Only the drip of the bathroom faucet. Delilah sank onto the bed, knees pulled to her chest. So what do we do now? Andrew stared at the water-stained ceiling. I don't know. His phone rang. Grace. For a moment, he hoped. Gracie. Andrew, she said, businesslike. The forensic audit confirmed. $40 million in fraudulent transfers. The district attorney is filing charges tomorrow. His stomach dropped. Wire fraud, embezzlement, corporate malfeasance, she continued. You'll receive formal notice in the morning. Please, he whispered. Tell Mom I'll do anything. You made your choice, Grace said. Now live with it. Click! Andrew hurled the phone against the wall. It shattered. Delilah didn't flinch. They sat there in that motel room. 2 people who destroyed a family for money they'd never keep. Listening to their own breathing and the drip. Drip. Drip of the faucet. Outside, a police siren wailed in the distance. Closer. Then fading. To Andrew, it sounded like a funeral bell. The next morning, Andrew woke to his raw burner phone. Vibrating violently. The cheap phone he'd bought with cash. 47 missed calls. Thunder text messages. His hands shook as he unlocked it. The first message read, Andrew Harper, this is the Dallas County District Attorney's Office. Please contact us immediately regarding pending charges. The second message came from Gerald Thompson. They're coming. Andrew sat up slowly, heart pounding, sweat dripping, and realized the war wasn't over. It was just entering its final phase. The first text came from his lawyer. Call me immediately. Do not speak to anyone else. Jai. The second was from his cousin in Austin. Dude, what the hell is this? Is it true? A link followed. Andrew clicked it. His blood turned to ice. The Justice for Charlotte was trending. #1 in the United States. The top post came from an anonymous account called NewsPro. Medical records proved Delilah. Harper's baby died before Charlotte Harper. Allegedly pushed her. Full documents below. This woman destroyed a family for money. Attached was the Mercy General Report. Date, September 23rd, 2024. Time, 11:45 p.m. Diagnosis, spontaneous incomplete abortion. Secondary to DNP toxicity. 2 days before the fall. 2 days before my arrest. The comments were merciless. She lied. Charlotte Harper is innocent. That son testified against his own mother, knowing she was innocent. The daughter-in-law killed her own. Baby with illegal diet pills and blamed the grandmother. Evil. Andrew scrolled faster. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, Facebook. Every platform was on fire. Videos of me at yesterday's press conference. Calm, controlled, unbroken. Cut against clips of Andrew and Delilah at my prison release. Smug, entitled, furious that I didn't crawl back to them. Someone had made a split-screen video. Left, me in prison clothes, thin, worn, dignified. Right, Andrew and Delilah in a luxury restaurant. Champagne raised. Caption, while she was in prison for a crime she didn't commit. They were spending her money. 8 million views. Delilah stirred beside him. Andrew, what's wrong? He showed her the phone. Her face drained of color. She grabbed her own burner phone. It was worse. Thousands of messages. You're a monster. You killed your own baby. You deserve prison. Screenshots of her Instagram flooded the feeds. Designer dresses, luxury trips, fine dining. This is what she was doing while Charlotte Harper was in prison. Delilah broke. Not the practice sobbing she'd done in court. Real tears. They hate us, she whispered. Everyone hates us. Andrew's phone rang. His lawyer. Andrew, listen carefully. Do not say anything. The medical records are real. Andrew swallowed. How did they get them? Dr. Sarah Kim. The lawyer said grimly. She treated Delilah that night. She was fired after your trial for questioning the narrative. She's waited 2 years to clear your mother's name. Andrew felt sick. She went public under whistleblower protection. The lawyer continued. Your wife's legal team found her. Your wife's, not your mother's. The line had already been drawn. What do we do? Andrew whispered. I'm withdrawing. The lawyer said flatly. Conflict of interest. The DA is filing charges this afternoon. What charges? Wire fraud, embezzlement, perjury, conspiracy to obstruct justice. Andrew's legs went weak. You're looking at 15 to 20 years. Please. I'm sorry, Andrew. You're on your own. Click! Andrew sat on the edge of the motel bed, head in his hands. 3 days ago, he was CEO of a $70 million company. Now he had 135 no lawyer, and the entire internet calling for his arrest. Delilah's phone rang. Hope flickered in her eyes. Hello? Then her face collapsed. She hung up. My lawyer dropped me, she said hollowly. Says the medical records make my case unwinnable. She looked at Andrew. Did you know? He couldn't lie anymore. You suspected. Her voice went flat. You knew the baby was already dead. Silence. You let me do it anyway, she continued. You let me throw myself down those stairs. You wanted to, Andrew said weakly. You told me it was the only way. She shot back. You said your mother would never give up the company, that the only way to have anything was to get her out of the way. They stared at each other. 2 people who destroyed everything. For nothing. What happens now? Delilah whispered. Andrew's phone buzzed. Unknown number. The truth always surfaces. Your mother sends her regards. Delilah laughed. High-pitched. Hysterical. We're ruined, she said. And she did it without lifting a finger. Andrew closed his eyes. I had won, and the war had only just begun. 1 week after my release, I sat at the head of the Sterling Industries boardroom, table for the first time in over 2 years. The marble gleamed under LED lights. 8 board members sat before me. Behind me stood Marcus Reed and Beatrice Walsh. My empire. My company, I said calmly. Thank you for coming. Richard Garrett cleared his throat. Charlotte, it's good to have you back. I'm sure it is, I replied. I pressed the remote. The screen lit up. During Andrew Harper's tenure, net profits fell 40%. Company debt increased 200%. Marcus tapped his keyboard. A graph appeared. Money bleeding out of Sterling Industries. 4.2 million disappeared over 24 months. Murmurs rippled. Where did it go? Patricia Chen asked. Marcus clicked again. Shell companies. Fake invoices. Lux Consulting. Owned by Delilah Harper. Another click. Morrison Advisory Group, 800,000. Another. Sterling Development Partners, 900,000. Richard exhaled. My God. And that's not the worst part, I said. Marcus displayed a new file. Judge Morrison, I continued. 75,000 paid 2 weeks before my trial. The room went dead silent. And 50,000 paid to the security technician, who lost the footage. I looked at each board member. My son sent me to prison knowing I was innocent. The doors burst open. Andrew stumbled in, unshaven, wrinkled clothes, desperation in his eyes. This meeting is invalid, he shouted. I'm still the CEO. You're nothing, I said calmly. Security. Business diversification, Andrew screamed. I was helping the company. Marcus stepped forward. You're facing federal charges, Mr. Harper. Andrew looked at me. For a split second, I saw my son. Then I remembered 2 years in a cell. The weakness vanished. As holder of 70% voting shares, I said clearly. I moved to dismiss Andrew Harper as CEO, effective immediately. Andrew shook his head wildly. You need 51%. I have 70, I replied. But let's make it unanimous. I turned. Marcus, invite our final board member. The doors opened. Grace Harper walked in. White suit. Perfect posture. Andrew's face lit up. Grace, thank God. She walked past him, sat beside me. Ladies and gentlemen, I said. Grace Harper, holder of 30% of Sterling Industries shares. Andrew staggered. What? Grace opened her file. Mother's will, she said coldly. Your inheritance was conditional. You failed. Andrew grabbed the chair. For 2 years. Grace continued. I documented everything you did. The room was silent. Andrew finally understood. He had lost everything. Andrew stared at Grace like he was seeing her for the first time. You were helping, Mom. All along, he whispered. Every prison visit. Every time you acted like you'd turned your back on her. Grace's mask finally cracked. Just a little. When she spoke, her voice trembled. I had to sit in that visitation room and call our mother unstable, she said. I had to listen to you and Delilah plan how to keep her in prison. Longer if she didn't cooperate. A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. I had to attend your dinners. Grace continued, her voice rising. And smile while you talked about redecorating her house. Her house, like she was already dead. Her composure shattered. Every night I went home and threw up, she said. Every prison visit I had to look Mom in the eyes and act like I'd abandoned her. She slammed a thick folder onto the table. I documented everything. She began pulling papers out, scattering them across the polished marble. Judge Morrison's bribe, right here. Copies of the checks you signed. Another stack. Payments to James Mitchell, the security technician. I have his signed confession. Another. The shell companies. Lux Consulting, Morrison Advisory, Sterling Development, all registered to Delilah within 30 days of Mom's conviction. Andrew looked around wildly, at the board members' faces. Disgusted. At Marcus. Grim satisfaction. At Beatrice. Cold judgment. At me. Silent, immovable. At Grace. Crying but unbreakable. You betrayed me, Andrew whispered. Your own brother. Grace slammed her hands on the table and stood. I saved our mother, she shouted. You sent an innocent woman to prison. You lived in her house. You stole from her company. You destroyed her reputation. She was crying openly now, but her voice never wavered. You had everything, Andrew. Mom would have made you CEO eventually. Dad left you his watch, his books, his legacy. Her voice broke for half a second, then hardened again. I got Mom's shares because you got everything else. And you still couldn't wait. You couldn't earn it. You had to steal it. She pulled out more papers, her hands shaking so badly they rustled. I have recordings of you admitting the embezzlement. Emails where you discussed bribing the judge. Text messages where you and Delilah planned how to frame Mom. She threw them at him. Paper fluttered through the air like snow made of guilt. I gave everything to the FBI. Andrew's legs gave out. He collapsed into a chair. Grace, please. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I loved you, she said. I looked up to you. When Dad died, you became the man of the family. You were supposed to protect us. Protect Mom. She wiped her eyes, smearing mascara. Instead, you destroyed her. For money you couldn't even keep. For a company you ran into the ground. For the approval of a woman who manipulated you from day one. Andrew couldn't speak. Grace turned to the board, drawing herself together with visible effort. "I vote yes," she said. "Dismiss Andrew Harper. Pursue full criminal prosecution." I nodded. "All in favor?" 8 hands rose. Unanimous. I looked at Andrew, my firstborn, the baby I'd held 35 years ago, promising I'd always protect him. Security. 2 men in suits stepped forward. "No," Andrew whispered. "Grace, please." "I'm sorry." Grace turned her chair toward the window. Her shoulders trembled. She wouldn't look at him. "Grace!" Andrew cried as they dragged him away. "Please, I was wrong." I met his eyes as they passed me, saw the moment it hit him. His mother wasn't going to save him. His sister wasn't going to forgive him. He was alone. The door closed. The lock clicked. Silence swallowed the boardroom. Grace stood facing the window, crying without sound. I rose and placed my hand on her shoulder. "You did the right thing, sweetheart." "It doesn't feel right," she whispered. "It feels like I destroyed my brother." "You didn't," I said gently. "He destroyed himself. You just stopped him from destroying anyone else." The board members quietly gathered their things and left. When the room was empty, Grace turned and collapsed into my arms. "I hated every second," she sobbed. "Every prison visit, every dinner with them, every lie. I held her like I did when she was little. I know, baby, I know. Did I really do the right thing? You saved me. You saved the company. You chose the hard right over the easy wrong." She leaned into me, exhausted. We stood there, mother and daughter, looking out over Dallas. 2 women who had survived betrayal. And one. That evening, Grace and I sat in the penthouse. She brought Chinese takeout. "Kung Pao chicken," she said softly. "Your favorite." I took one bite and nearly cried. I missed this so much. We ate in silence for a while. Then Grace spoke quietly. "I visit him sometimes." My chopsticks froze midair. "Andrew?" She nodded. "Once a month. County jail. I don't talk much. I just sit. Tell him about the company. About you." I set the food down. "Why?" She hesitated. "Because you taught me that family means never completely giving up." She looked at me then. "Remember when I was 16 and got caught shoplifting? Everyone wanted you to let the judge throw the book at me. Teach me a lesson." The words came back to me instantly. Grace had been 16, scared, trying to impress the wrong boy. She'd shoplifted something small, stupid, something that could have followed her for the rest of her life if handled the wrong way. Everyone had told me to let the judge make an example of her, but I hadn't. Instead, I stood by her, got her counseling, made her face why she'd done it instead of branding her forever by one mistake. Grace looked at me now, eyes searching. "You told me then?" she said softly. "People aren't defined by their worst moment. They're defined by what they do after." I swallowed. "So I visit Andrew," she continued. "Not to forgive him, not to excuse what he did, but to remind him that somewhere, someone still believes he could be better than his worst choice." I was quiet for a long moment. "You're a better person than I am," I said honestly. Grace gave a sad smile. "I learned from the best." Then her expression shifted. "He's different now, Mom. Jail changed him. He's quieter. He doesn't make excuses anymore." My chest tightened. "Last time I visited, he told me he's been reading Dad's journals." My breath caught. "Michael's journals?" She nodded. "The ones you gave him years ago." I closed my eyes briefly. Grace continued. "Andrew said something Dad wrote really stayed with him." She repeated it softly. "A Harper faces what he's done. We don't run. We don't hide. We own our mistakes and do better." Tears burned behind my eyes. Michael would have been devastated by what Andrew did, but he would have wanted his son to find his way back. "What else did Andrew say?" I asked quietly. Grace hesitated. "He's going to testify, tell the whole truth, plead guilty, accept whatever sentence they give him." My throat tightened. "He said he can't undo the past," Grace whispered. "But he can stop lying about it." I didn't know what to say. "I'm not asking you to forgive him," Grace said quickly. "I know I don't have that right. I just thought you should know. Thank you," I said softly. We finished dinner in silence. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But something had shifted. The possibility of it. Someday. 3 months later, I sat in George L. Allen Court's building in downtown Dallas. The courtroom was packed. Reporters. Employees from Sterling Industries. Curious onlookers. I sat in the front row in a tailored gray suit. Spine straight. Grace sat beside me, her hand resting lightly over mine. On the defendant's bench, Andrew sat in an orange jumpsuit. Wrists cuffed. 2 seats away sat Delilah. Hollow, thinner, empty-eyed. They hadn't spoken since the motel. Judge Mary Ellen Kellerman entered. All rise. The prosecution moved methodically. Dr. Sarah Kim testified first. About the miscarriage 2 days before the fall. The illegal DMP in Delilah's system, being fired for questioning the official narrative. Then the forensic accountant detailed every stolen dollar. Shell companies, fake invoices, money bleeding out of Sterling Industries. Then James Mitchell, the security technician. I was paid $50,000. He admitted, voice shaking. To lose the footage. And to say the baby died from traumatic injury. Then the prosecution called Grace Harper. My daughter walked to the stand, head high. She'd lost weight. The stress had taken its toll. Miss Harper, the prosecutor said gently, you spent 2 years gathering evidence against your own brother. Why? Grace's voice was steady. Because he sent my mother to prison for something she didn't do. Because he stole from our family's company. And because someone had to stop him. At what cost to yourself? Grace's eyes filled. I had to pretend to hate my mother. Visit her in prison and call her unstable. Smile while my brother destroyed everything she built. The courtroom was silent. Why didn't you go to the police immediately? I had suspicions, Grace said, but no proof. Andrew was careful. Evidence takes time. The defense attorney stood. Miss Harper, isn't it true you wanted Sterling Industries for yourself? Grace didn't flinch. I already owned 30% through my mother's trust. I didn't need to frame anyone. I only needed the truth. When she stepped down, Grace passed Andrew's table. For just 1 second, their eyes met. Andrew mouthed, I'm sorry. Grace didn't respond. She kept walking. Then something no one expected happened. Andrew's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client wishes to testify. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Defendants almost never testify. Andrew took the stand. Mr. Harper, his lawyer asked quietly, did you embezzle from Sterling Industries? Yes, the word echoed. Did you know Delilah Harper's baby had died before the alleged fall? Andrew paused. Then he looked at me. For the first time, our eyes met. Not at first, he said, but I suspected. And when I knew for certain, I stayed silent. His voice cracked. I wanted the company. I wanted to prove I was as good as my father. Tears spilled freely now. And I destroyed the one person who loved me enough to believe I could be. He turned to the judge. I'm guilty. Of everything. Embezzlement, wire fraud, bribery, perjury, conspiracy. The courtroom held its breath. I knew my mother was innocent. I saw Delilah step backward, and I testified anyway. He sobbed openly. I don't deserve mercy. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I can stop lying. Silence. Judge Kellerman spoke at last. Andrew Harper, you have been found guilty of embezzlement, wire fraud, bribery, perjury, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. She looked over her glasses. You betrayed your mother, corrupted the justice system, and stole from people who trusted you. She paused. The court sentences you to 15 years in Texas State Penitentiary, with no eligibility for early parole. Andrew nodded slowly. I understand. The judge turned. Mrs. Delilah Harper. Delilah stiffened. While you cooperated with parts of this investigation, Judge Kellerman said, your role in framing an innocent woman cannot be overlooked. The court sentences you to 12 years in state prison. Delilah stared at her hands. No tears, no denial, just emptiness. The bailiff stepped forward. As they led Andrew away, he turned back one last time. His eyes found mine. I really looked at him then. Not with hate, not with the love that once blinded me, but with something quieter. Grief, loss, and very faintly, the distant possibility that someday, after 15 years of paying for what he'd done, there might be a conversation. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just acknowledgement that he was still my son, even if I could no longer be his mother in the way I once was. Andrew seemed to understand. He nodded once. Then they took him away. The Texas sun burned bright as Grace and I stepped onto the courthouse stairs. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashing. But Marcus and Beatrice formed a wall around us. Grace turned to me, eyes shining. "Mom, is it really over?" I pulled her into my arms, and for the first time in 2 years, I broke. Not politely, not quietly. Deep, shaking sobs ripped out of me. 2 years of being strong in prison. 2 years of swallowing grief. 2 years of watching my daughter pretend to hate me to save me. "You gave up everything for me," I cried. 2 years of your life. 2 years of loneliness. Grace held me tighter. "I was never alone," she whispered. "I had you. Even when I couldn't show it. Even when I had to say terrible things." I pulled back, cupping her face. "How did you keep going?" She smiled through tears. "You told me when Dad died. We're Harpers. We don't break. We bend. We adapt. We survive. And we come back stronger." She laughed softly. "I just used what you taught me to save you." Behind us, Marcus and Beatrice stood quietly, honoring the moment. "What now?" Grace asked. I looked out over Dallas. My city, my life, my future. "Now," I said, taking a deep breath. "We rebuild. Better than before. Together." The Sterling Industries annual gala filled the Dallas Convention Center. 500 guests, crystal lights, soft music. I stood at the podium in an emerald gown, my silver hair styled elegantly. At 66 years old, I had never felt more powerful. 3 years ago, I began. I lost everything. My freedom, my reputation, my family. The room was silent. But in a cell at Dallas County Jail, I learned something important. I paused. You can take a woman's money, her home, her name, but you cannot take her strength. Applause rippled softly. Today, Sterling Industries has recovered 200%. We've hired 50 formerly incarcerated women through our Second Chances program, and we've donated $10 million to the Innocence Project. I looked at Grace seated at the head table, and we are now led by the most brilliant, ethical, fearless CEO I know. The room erupted. "I am officially retiring next month," I said, smiling. "And I leave this company in the hands of my daughter, Grace Harper." Standing ovation. Grace joined me at the podium. We embraced. "I'm proud of you," I whispered. "I learned from the best," she whispered back. Later, I stepped outside into the warm Dallas night. Stars glittered above the skyline. Marcus Reed joined me. "You won," he said gently. "Did I?" I asked. "You lost a son," he acknowledged. "But you kept someone who would sacrifice everything for you." He paused. "Grace still visits Andrew. Once a month." I smiled sadly. "She's stronger than I am. Forgiveness isn't weakness," Marcus said. "I know," I replied. "But I'm not there yet." "That's allowed," he said quietly. We stood in silence. Inside, I could hear Grace laughing with Betty, my former cellmate, now Sterling Industries prisoner advocacy coordinator. The future was bright. The past was complicated. But I was free. That night, alone in my Highland Park home, my home again, I sat at Michael's old desk. I took out a sheet of paper. Not to Andrew. I had said everything I needed to say to him. But to myself. "Dear Charlotte, before you lose everything, your son will betray you. You will spend 2 years in a cell that smells like despair. You will question your worth as a mother. I'm writing from the other side to tell you this. You survive. More than survive. You discover who you really are when everything else is stripped away. You will learn that grace is stronger than you ever imagined. That power doesn't come from money or titles, but from character. That some things break forever. And that's okay. Andrew's betrayal will feel like death. And in some ways it is. But his choices are not your failure. You were a good mother. You raised Grace. That alone proves it. Now live fully. Love fiercely. Fight hard. And never let anyone make you feel small again. With hard-won wisdom. Charlotte, I folded the letter carefully and placed it beside Michael's wedding photo. The past was written. The future was mine. Tomorrow would be my first day of retirement. Grace was taking over completely. But I wasn't disappearing. I was beginning again. Different. Scarred. Wiser. But unbreakable. 6 months after the trial, I did something I'd sworn I would never do. I drove to Texas State Penitentiary. Different location from where I'd been held, but the same weight pressed down on everything. The same smell. The same hollow echoes. The same reminder of what incarceration takes from a human being. Grace had asked me to come, just once, to hear what Andrew had to say. I almost refused. But Grace had given me 2 years of her life. I could give her 1 hour? The visitation room was painfully familiar. Plexiglass. Phones. Separation. Andrew appeared on the other side. He looked different. Thinner. Harder. Prison had stripped away the softness. His hair was cut short now, gray touching his temples. His eyes were clearer, but older. Sadder. He picked up the phone. I picked up mine. "Mom," he said, voice cracking. "Thank you for coming." I didn't answer. I just looked at him. "I know I don't have the right to ask anything from you." He continued. "There aren't words for what I did." He shook his head. "I destroyed you. For money I never got to keep. For a company I ran into the ground. For approval from a woman who never really loved me." Tears filled his eyes. "I've had 14 months to think. Every day. About what I did to you. About the 2 years you spent in a place like this. Because I lied. Because I was weak. Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice cold. "Dad's journals," he said. "Grace brought them. I've been reading them over and over." He held up a piece of paper, his handwriting shaky. "Dad wrote this the year before he died. The measure of a man isn't his success. It's how he handles failure. Does he blame others? Or does he own his mistakes and do better?" Andrew looked at me. "I blamed everyone. You. Delilah. The company. But the truth is, I made every choice, and I have to own them." His voice broke. I confessed. "I'm serving my time, and when I get out, if you're still alive, if you're willing, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you and Dad tried to raise. I'm not asking for forgiveness," he whispered. "I don't deserve it. I just need you to know I'm sorry. Truly." I sat in silence, watching my son cry behind plexiglass. Part of me wanted to hang up and walk away forever. But another part, the part that carried him for 9 months, raised him for 18 years, loved him for 35, couldn't quite let go. "Do you understand what you took from me?" I asked quietly. 2 years of my life. But more than that, you took my ability to trust. You made me doubt myself as a mother." My voice sharpened. Every day in that cell, I asked myself where I went wrong. Andrew collapsed inward. "Let me finish," I said. "I blamed myself. Too hard on you, too soft, too focused on work." I claimed every failure. I leaned back. Then I looked at Grace. Same mother. Same values. Same upbringing. And she chose differently. "So I realized something," I said calmly. "This wasn't my failure. It was your choice."